Well, thank you all. And we're back again here at the Peace Summit for 2022. And we are hosted by the Rich Women magazine out of the United Kingdom. I'm Yvonne Gamble, and I am the CEO of Sanpete Financial Group. And I have with me this afternoon as my special guest, Dr. Erica Gamble, and she is the founder of the Wig Doctor. So I'm going to bring her up and let her tell you all about herself. And then she's going to share some information and some tips with us on peace globally and how we can actually look to achieve that. Dr. Gamble, take it away.
Thank you so much, Miss Yvonne Gamble. I am Dr. Erica Gamble, and I am, yes, like she said, the owner of the Wig Doctor Wig Boutique. And I actually started my business in 2014. And like many people who start businesses, you never really know truly sometimes the impact that your business may have on people. Excuse me, whether it's the community, whether it's community leaders, whether it's just the people who need your help. And so when I started my business, I initially thought that I would just be selling wigs. Everybody knows what wigs are. Everybody knows that there are lots of women who wear wigs, who wear hair pieces. However, what I did not discover until a couple of, maybe about 6 months into my business is that this business is bigger than just selling and wearing wigs. What I realized was there is a medical need, there is medical necessity. There is also within our communities this epidemic, hair loss. A lot of people don't talk about hair loss. A lot of people don't talk about how hair loss has impacted their lives. There has been numerous studies done on women in particular who have bouts with depression because of hair loss, who have threatened to commit suicide, who have lost jobs, partners, just a sense of self, right? And so I think what's happened in this beauty industry is that we take things sometimes for granted. And what I quickly discovered is that I needed to get some additional information, right? I needed to figure out not only how I can help these people, but how I could work with other medical practitioners and people within this industry to help educate people and to help people understand things that they could do, tools and resources that they could have and use, and how that this could ultimately change their lives. So what I did was I went back to school. I have an earned PhD in organizational leadership and behavior. I decided that I would go back and try to understand what hair loss is. And so I started to study trichology under a trichologist out of the UK, Dr. David Kingsley. But then in that, over the course of a year and a half or 2 years, I started to discover things that I didn't know personally, certain medications, aging, certain environmental impacts, so many things that can cause hair loss where people aren't educated. They just, look in the mirror one day, see that they've lost hair, and it's just like, okay, now I don't know what to do. They go to a doctor or dermatologist. Oftentimes they'll tell them, take this pill, take this topical, come back in a month, see me next month, see me in 3 months, continue to purchase and buy and do, but there is nothing changing. And so I feel like I needed to be a disruptor here, right? I needed to talk to people about, do's and don'ts. People are spending hundreds and thousands of dollars that they don't even have to buy topicals and all these things that are temporary or just really, non-permanent solutions. And so with that being said, just getting out into the community, right? Holding education forums, just talking to people about their experiences, things that they've heard, things they haven't heard, things that they can do, should be doing, could do, just simply education. And I feel like these things can be done at no cost. Although I do have a business that I do run, and although I, obviously I'm not a non-for-profit, I'm in business to profit, I feel like the educational part of this does not necessarily have to be about making money. I think it's important If we have the knowledge to share, then we should be doing it in any industry. And so I've partnered with doctors across, Metro Atlanta, oncologists, some dermatologists, some other people in the community, nurses, nurse navigators, to really try to figure out how we can potentially help people in this space. Also, one of the biggest things now that we've seen since the pandemic is COVID hair loss. So there was a big influx of women who had been, diagnosed with having COVID. Some had been in the hospital, some had been in intensive care. What they discovered was about a week and a half to 2 weeks after coming home, hair started to fall out. Again, the first thing we do is we run to our doctors for answers. Hey, I've been sick, my hair's falling out, what's happening? The doctors don't necessarily know. The first thing that they might say is take a pill, or, do this or try this, or it's just hair, it'll come back. But in this research that I've been doing with several women who have been in this position, what we've discovered is that the hair is not necessarily going to come back. There's other factors, age, medication, other things that are going on in your life. But the stress of life can cause hair loss, and it can be very damaging. And so I think what's important here is that we call this space the beauty industry to some degrees, but I think we have to be careful with that because, wearing wigs and hair pieces and hair loss is not beauty to everybody. Some people that I service and that I see are losing hair for different reasons. Obviously, if you're a person who's been diagnosed with cancer and you're going through chemotherapy, then there are obvious reasons why you're losing hair. Most oftentimes that hair is going to come back depending on the person's age, other factors, things of that nature. So that's, a temporary space. But for some people, again, for things like autoimmune diseases, medications, COVID, hair loss, stress, hair may not necessarily come back. And so I just feel that, thousands of women, and I service everybody, men, women, and children, but I'm mainly specifically here talking about women. Many of our women are misguided. Many of them are not educated. Some don't want the guidance, some don't want the education, but there are, I feel like there's a great number that really do. And so again, like I said, I feel like being a disruptor in this space, because this is a social impact. There are women who will not show up for work because they don't know what to do, because they have bald spots, patches, hair's coming out, they're embarrassed. So most of us know when that happens, productivity is not gonna happen. You're kind of in a shell, right? You don't want to do anything. You don't want to talk to anybody. You just don't feel like yourself. And so in those instances, you're like, well, at this point, what else do I do? So I feel like, and this is impactful to women all across the world, not just here in Georgia, not just in the United States. I meet women all over the world who are going through these very things, but don't realize or understand what resources might be available to them and things that they could do.
Okay, well, that was very interesting and very insightful. One of the things that I did kind of pull out what you were talking about as it relates to, say, in the space of peace, and it's peace of mind. So basically what you're saying is we don't have peace of mind, and we can't bring ourselves to a resolve, within our minds. And so then much of this, we translate it and we say that stress, and that can have that impact, on our hair, on those different functions. Now, what's interesting, Dr. Gamble, that I did want to pose a direct question, and that is, as we know, hair is one of the things in the body that has been with man since the dawn of time. And, obviously in earlier times, it was also used as a warmth to us. And it was also, there was hair, it was throughout the body. And so it was a covering, in addition, before, we had animal coverings and cloth and what have you, we had hair. It was also, a part of the sweat factory, the sweat glands. So now you're saying that the type of stresses, are you saying, is it the type of stresses, or that we just have stress in general because I'm looking and just trying to figure out, well, we weren't losing our hair then, and we probably had more things that we were running from and to fear of, out in the cold, out in the open air than we do now. But now the stress is turning us to the point where we're losing our hair.
Yeah, I think so. In the study that I'm doing, and if I can recall, so many of the women that I've interviewed have had life-changing experiences. Now, again, life-changing experience for you could be different than it is for me. But some examples of that could be having a child, losing a child, getting married, getting divorced. See, all of those things can be good things, but some of those good things can then turn to bad things. So I've talked to women who said, I had a wonderful pregnancy, things were great, hair was growing. As soon as the baby came out, boom. Now I look in the mirror and I don't look the same. I don't feel the same. I've noticed that I've lost hair. I talked to a woman who's going through a divorce. She said, you know what? It was inevitable. I saw the signs, there were things going on, but then one day, going back and forth to court and trying to sell a home and trying to split things. She said, I just woke up one day and I looked in the mirror and noticed a huge bald spot right here in the crown, out of nowhere. But it's not out of nowhere, because what happens is the body is attacked. You're attacked all over anyway, because you're dealing with these things, you're fighting people. But then the body just says, hey, what else is there? Let me find something to attack. And most of us don't think about it that way. Our hair.
That's interesting.
You're right. We've had all these stressors in life, but I think now just times have changed. I think things are so socially driven and all of that. I don't know why it's so different, but I will say I think it's not so much as different as it just wasn't talked about.
Right. And that, yeah, and I thought about that as you were talking. It was those, so many things were taboo, and so many things we did not speak about. And also there was a long period of time where, and even now, it's more of a religious or cultural to wear headdresses.
Yes.
So many women, you could have had hair loss, but you would never have known, because they had a beautiful headdress on. So you really kind of didn't even think about, what the hair looked like. So, well, there you have it. When you're talking about peace and peace in the world, peace comes from so many different types of things. And not to make a pun, but even a hair piece can bring peace into the world, because it is that peace of mind. And if we don't have peace of mind, the achieving of peace and the having of peace in the home, in the community, in our workspaces, in our businesses, or what have you, it won't be achieved. So this too is very important. Every factor is very important to that peace of mind that brings us peace in the world. So we want to thank you for tuning in here with the PeaceMakers Summit 2.0. We've got a 24-hour time frame, and we hope that you'll be here from the beginning until the end. Thank you once again. And thank you so much, Dr. Gamble, the founder of the Wig Doctor, for coming on and shedding a little bit with us about how we can actually bring peace and to the women, the children, and to the men.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.